very good afternoon, everyone. I'm your host, Manu, and I extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you to the second edition of the Battery Show 2024 by Informa Markets. The next session that we are proceeding with has been powered by Wisecom, and these will be very informative presentations, beginning with the first presentation. Without any further ado, let me call upon stage Dr. Simon, founder and chair, Battery Associates. A huge round of applause for Dr. Simon, the founder and chair, Battery Associates. The topic of the presentation is expanding battery production, insights from the European Gigafactories for the Indian market. Handing over the baton of this presentation to you, sir. The stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you all for joining. It's a really exciting event. So first time for me here in India. I'm seeing the exciting developments in this market. I'm very delighted to share some of our learnings. We also see specifically in the European market, where we have been quite active over the last 4 years, also in addition to the Indian market. My name is Dr. Simon Engelke, and I'm the founder and chair of Battery Associates. We started about 4 years ago, and really are fully focused on the battery topic as a knowledge partner for many organizations, including some of you who are here today. Today's talk is about expanding battery production, insights of the European Gigafactories for the Indian market. Just a quick overview of who we are as Battery Associates. Our mission is to create a sustainable world through the power of people and battery innovation. So we see all of you as part of that. We do this in a couple of different ways, including Battery EDU, which is our educational arm, which includes the Battery MBA program, where we have seen a lot of adoption in India from many companies such as Ola, Tata, and others. Beyond that, we also have the Battery Lab, which is our innovation arm, and Battery Pro, which is our advising and consulting arm. One thing which is also really important to us is to have a thriving community in over 60 countries, bringing together battery experts and enthusiasts from around the world, working together and really addressing some of the big challenges we see in the battery industry. One topic also important to us is to increase diversity. So we're very proud of our over 30% women in our community. So if we kind of start looking at battery gigafactories, it's actually quite a long process. Often we see announcements of a quick gigafactory being built, and there are definitely exceptions, but usually it is really taking quite a few years. And why is this so? Because you have a lot of different parts which have to come together. Of course, you need the outside, you need the facility, the building, but of course also inside, there's a lot of equipment and facilitation which has to come together. Also, of course, an important aspect is talent, people you have to bring together. Again, an aspect we're quite involved in from the Battery MBA, but also other training efforts we're providing, we keep building up. So yeah, the four main aspects are: one is your factory, the second is you have to get your contracts ready, then personnel, again, very important, often overlooked, and then also your cell production. And again, topics such as scrap rates and optimizing your processes are really definitely things which can take quite some time. And if you just kind of put this a bit in perspective, if you look at some of the gigafactories we've been monitoring over the last few years, we can see on the left side for you that there is quite a few variability as well in these factories. But again, it's very uncommon that you have 1 or 2 years of these factories. Often we really look at much longer horizons. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years are not that uncommon, especially to get it to a high through output and a high quality output without really high scrap rates, which again are quite expensive. And especially in some markets like India, I think that's definitely something you don't want to overlook, because these learnings can be quite expensive. We have seen for some of the European players, we look at Northvolt and other companies, it really is expensive to ramp up these factories, which is also one of the reasons now that we see a lot of these actors actually reducing the amount of gigafactories they're trying to build in parallel, but really doubling down and focusing on a few of these gigafactories to produce at higher quality at the factories they have, and then keep expanding it to kind of more factories in other markets later on as well. Also here on the right side, we can see some of the cost factor. Again, I think very important for the Indian market, a big challenge with China. Again, the price point being very competitive, about half of many other regions around the world we see. So again, hitting this price point is definitely a big challenge, I think, including for companies here. But also one aspect we can see, really important to hit the scale point, right? Like really ramping up, hitting higher scales, because only then you can really reduce your price point, something when I reach at. Again, we see India now, it's exciting to see the first gigafactories, but again, you really want to go higher. I know there are plans to go more to the 100 gigawatt hour scale, but again, that's where it's really exciting about the price point from production level. Then if you kind of look at some of, the production we see here, this is kind of like the full kind of, production life cycle, that we can see that the majority of equipment, CapEx and OpEx, are in the electrode manufacturing and also cell finishing. And again, we can see here all the different steps. We can, of course, talk about this also more later on. Why are some of these, costs more on the OpEx or on the CapEx side? But again, there's a lot of equipment we have to bring together. There's many companies in the audience like Thermo Fisher and others providing equipment. But again, you really have to kind of be smart about how you put this different equipment together as well. Again, it's expensive to kind of get a lot of these equipment together, but also the running costs can be rather high. One topic, for example, be formation, right? What you need to kind of cell quality testing at the end requires a lot of energy. So you want to be mindful, like what are ways you can optimize this process. There's a lot of different approaches from the cell contractors, like companies like Ingun we're working with as a company member, but also many other companies who are looking at how can you speed up your process, get more effective in your formation, don't need just really long cycles for testing, reduce the cycling time. Again, there's a lot of really exciting innovation coming out of Europe, US, China, many other regions around the world. And especially when you now start building up your factories in India, I think to think about like where can you bring this cutting edge, where can you really show nice advances, I think is quite important there as well. Then I think there's a couple of different ways we see that battery manufacturers kind of addressing the topic of battery manufacturing. We would kind of cluster them in 4 different aspects. You can see them here on the 4 of them. One is like the turnkey provider, right? I see Vushali up here being quite present here. There's other turnkey providers. So here the idea is to really have one company providing you the full equipment stack, like a turnkey solution. You work with one company providing everything. We have seen this working out and being approached in Europe, for example, for Northvolt with Vushali and other companies. It can be quite effective, especially at the beginning, if you don't have much knowledge yet, how to approach your battery manufacturing. You can really use it to kind of get started. Cost can be quite effective. We have seen Vushali and other companies being about half the price point of other offerings we have seen. But also the risk can be quite low because, again, you have a company which already has done it. Challenges there can be, the novelty factor. So often this equipment you can get, maybe it's not the most new technology you can get on the market. Often maybe it's a few years already outdated. We have seen some concerns with some of the companies. Other topics are IP concerns, because if you have all the equipment now from one provider and you want to get modifications in your manufacturing, can be a bit more tricky with some of the turnkey providers, how to keep your IP protected and keep it really unique. Some of the challenges we definitely have seen. Other approaches we definitely have seen also in Europe are more the approach of consortia. There we bring a few different companies together. We're trying to provide like a full offering for battery manufacturing. Again, it's quite exciting because you bring like a lot of companies with really specific know-how and bring it together, so you can bring a lot of innovation together. But yeah, the cost can be more challenging. We have seen a lot of these consortia having a hard time to hit the price point of some of these turnkey providers. So again, being quite problematic. I think it's something similar you might see here in India. On the other hand, you can work together and bringing different stakeholders together to hit like a really nice comprehensive offering. Then also with the risk can vary, right? So we have seen it being a bit more lower because, or like a medium, because these players often are more new in the gigafactory space. Maybe they have some experience doing some part of the battery manufacturing, but they don't really have the experience yet for the full battery manufacturing. Then also we have another approach to self-design. Definitely something also used for some smaller players. I've met quite a few interesting companies here providing different aspects of the battery manufacturing. And here again, the idea would be if you bring up a new factory that you kind of piece together the different equipment. Again, quite interesting if you're like a newer player who wants to get special equipment from different players. But again, cost can be more challenging sometimes, can be higher, but also can be lower. It really depends on how good are you at negotiating your contracts. In Europe, we see kind of like the middle players, middle-sized actors working on this right now. Can be successful, but also can be challenging. One thing you don't want to overlook is the integration, like bringing the software together. It's a big topic, right? You have a lot of different vendors you want to bring together. Again, something you want to be quite mindful of. How do you integrate these different stakeholders together? We have a lot of anecdotes and examples, so if you want to hear more about this, please talk to me afterwards, as we have worked with quite a few of these factories. Last but not least is the approach of a technology provider. Quite interesting again. Like one example from the US would be Tesla, who was working with Panasonic, where you bring in a company which has a lot of knowledge, expertise, who kind of get you started, and you can work with, which is again quite interesting. Yeah, again, from a sizing, we have seen all kinds of different ones. There's also a lot of Chinese and Korean and Japanese player who are really willing in exporting their know-how, their technology. Cost can really vary again, can be effective cost-wise, but can also be more higher. And risk, we see a bit more medium to high. Reason being, again, they have a lot of expertise there, but also you're kind of depending on one company who kind of working with and scaling up. Example from Tesla again, they work a lot with Panasonic, but they also started building their own technology. So they're kind of going more into the self-design and getting more ownership of their processes. Great. So here I want to look a bit of a case study from Europe as a European cell manufacturer, which has been choosing actually turnkey solution more on the pilot scale, and then has been working on kind of adding more additions onto it. And really the reason here is that some of the offerings hasn't been as high quality maybe they have been hoping for. So they have kept getting other providers for some aspects of the manufacturing. For example, like thickness measurements, but also other aspects in the Gigafactory that have been worked on with other stakeholders to optimize it and improve it. Yeah, it's wonderful to see also the growing room here. So if you want to film this as well, that would be great to see the entire audience. And again, software often being a bit outside, which again, there's a lot of software vendors, a lot of different vendors which you can work with. But again, vetting your vendors to make it really effective, being really, really important. And here now is one of the last aspects, was also before I have to kind of wrap it up, looking at the time, is kind of some of the real aspects we have seen here in Europe, kind of how they have been approaching it. So if we look at European gigafactories, they have not really been able to kind of hit the price point often. So often they have really relied on government support and EU acumen to work with. We have done quite a few studies kind of looking at kind of the expertise of a lot of these companies and looking at which of these companies have more expertise, especially in battery manufacturing, but also in the European market. Again, if you're interested, get in touch with us. We have done quite a bit of work on that. But these are now kind of 4 examples of companies which have been operating in Europe. And I would like to go them one by one. One being SVolt, quite a prominent company from China. They want to expand quite a bit in Europe, especially in Germany. They've been looking at this market quite a lot. In the end, actually, they didn't go through with it. One of the aspects which has been also publicly debated is government support, which really means they've been kind of pausing and delaying their efforts. They were hoping to get quite a bit of money from the European government and the German government, kind of as a support for their battery manufacturing. Unfortunately, it looks like they haven't been able to get that. So what they actually did is they have stopped or delayed their efforts in Europe, and they keep now still shipping from Asia. That's again something for you to look at if you now want to get companies from outside of India to India. How can you make it easy for them to get this government support? Because again, a lot of them really will require this. They're expecting to get government support. They get government support all around the world. So I think for you to work together with the government and the different stakeholders, how to make it really easy is really important to really attract these early gigafactories to India as well. Then another aspect is also EU acumen. CATL, biggest battery company right now in the world, from China. Here again, the topic of bringing also the talent to Europe. They had some challenges also to attract talent in the early days in Europe. Again, a lot of the talent right now is still in China. And again, you want to find ways to really either upskill and train your talent in the country like India, or also being able to attract it from outside. There's another entire keynote I could give just on the topic of battery talent, scaling it up. Again, something we work on with a lot of the other gigafactories in Europe. A lot of learnings from that, either battery MBA, but also other trainings we have and we're developing. Please get in touch if you're interested in. We'd love to tell you some of our experience later on as well. Another aspect is also acumen of the battery technology. Here, one concrete example would be Farasis. They really focused on pouch cells early on because there was a lot of interest from companies like Mercedes, etc., to scale up pouch cells. Actually, in the end, it didn't work out with pouch cells. Happy to talk more about why. Why is prismatic? They're really the common form factor now next to cylindrical cells. Again, being focused on that is also really important. And last but not least, also important for you to have the battery demand. Britishvolt in the UK being quite a prominent company, but it didn't work out so well because they didn't really have the demand for their technology. And last but not least, I would like quickly share, and then I'm going to wrap it up within a minute, and that's the topic of regulation. If you are interested to export to the European side, being aware of the European battery regulation being really, really important. Again, there's a lot of different things you have to comply with. You will see on here from CO2, but also recycling quotas, etc. We get a lot of interest right now from Indian companies to understand what they have to do to comply with European regulations. So please get in touch with us. We have offerings there to really get you ready for the European market. And I'm sure that's the same we also see for the US market, but also Indian markets, how to understand them properly. So we navigate a lot of these topics quite a lot. So please get in touch with us. I'm happy to tell you more about this. That's really the last slide. That's my LinkedIn. Welcome to connect with me. Would love to talk to you. We also have a booth in Hall 3. Please get in touch with us. We've brought quite a few people here, Bharath and others in the audience. You're welcome to talk to and ask us how we can help you on the battery topic. Again, personally and as a company, super excited about the Indian market. Would love to support you. So please get in touch. Happy to tell you much more about our learnings, also in one-on-one. Thank you for having us.